Hey YouTube! First of all, I'd like to start this video by expressing my thanks for all the support from my viewers and subscribers. I never thought I'd reach even the small audience I have now, and I can't thank you enough for your patience, constructive criticism, and encouragement. You're helping me to live the dream, even if it is on a small scale. Okay, now that we've got the mushy stuff out of the way, we can roll up our sleeves and plunge straight into the not-so-wonderful world of Bioshock. Now, before I go any further, I feel it's important to say that I love this series, particularly Bioshock Infinite. However, when consuming the game critically, there are more than a few troubling issues that manifest themselves in the storytelling, and I don't think there's a better example of this than the treatment of Daisy Fitzroy, leader of the Vox Populi. In order to understand what makes Daisy tick, one has to know more about the setting of the game itself. The majority of Bioshock Infinite takes place in the fictional city of Columbia, floating some 15,000 feet in the sky off the coast of Maine. The city is ruled by one Zachary Hale Comstock, a man who calls himself the Prophet and is worshipped by the people of Columbia, along with his late wife and absent daughter. Comstock founded Columbia as a template for his beliefs in evangelical Christianity, patriotism, white supremacy, and the supposed ideals of the Founding Fathers. Why does that sound familiar? The only way to enter the city is by way of violent baptism. Only after nearly drowning are you permitted to pass through its gates. One only needs to spend a few minutes in Columbia before the facade of friendly white faces and beautiful architecture is stripped away. One look behind closed doors or a second of eavesdropping on a casual conversation reveals that people of color have no place other than servants and laborers.
Everything's changing. People don't know their place anymore.
Tell me about it. An Oriental stopped me on the street and asked me for the time. Just like that. There should be a law. I think there is.
Black, Native, and Asian people are all treated as subhuman, while interracial couples are put on display to be publicly bludgeoned to death. Their prejudices don't stop with racism either, extending their xenophobia towards the Irish as well. Such members of the population have no choice but to reside in the slums and live hand to mouth, still having to beg for food after a 16-hour workday. A recorded message to Comstock from Jeremiah Fink, president of his own manufacturing company, staffed almost entirely by said underprivileged citizens, explains at least in part how this came to be.
Well, I have a man in Georgia who'll lease us as many Negro convicts as you can board. Why, you can say they're simple souls in penance for rising above their station. Whatever eases your conscience, I suppose.
This is where Daisy enters the narrative. Upon being brought to the city, Fitzroy was made to serve as a chambermaid for the Lady Comstock. Though her future held only menial labor, her personal recordings reveal that she showed true optimism regarding her fate in Columbia, settling into her new life in the hopes that her lot would improve.
When I first seen Columbia, that sky was the brightest, bluest sky that ever was. Seemed like heaven.
As one might assume, this wasn't meant to be. At the wrong place at the wrong time, Daisy was framed for the murder of Lady Comstock in 1895 and fled for her life with Comstock and his devotees hot on her trail. But even while living as a fugitive, she saw her own plight as a call to arms, forming the Vox Populi as a protest group within the poor regions of Columbia. She describes their cause thusly in 1912.
Comstock is the god of the white man, the rich man, the pitiless man. But if you believe in common folk, then join the Vox. If you believe in the righteous folk, then join the Vox.
My ship.
It's at this time that the Vox are preparing to strike against Comstock after nearly 2 decades of planning in secrecy. The deaths of both Comstock and Fink are the only means by which Daisy believes Columbia can stand any hope of being saved. This isn't where I raise objection to the presentation of her character. In fact, I couldn't agree with Daisy more. Fink and Comstock have both been shown to be truly despicable, irredeemable people on multiple occasions, and I would be more than happy to sit back and watch Daisy rip them a new one.
No, let's be clear. I would like nothing more than to shorten your workday. But the fact is, I simply can't. Why not, you ask? Well, I can sum it up for you in one word. Morality. You see, my friends, the idle hand is the tool of the devil. You take industry from a man's hand, and what goes in its place? Whiskey, women, and dice.
To tax the black more than the white, is that not cruel? To forbid the mixing of the races, Is that not cruel? To give the vote to the white man and deny it to the yellow, the black, the red, is that not cruel? But is it not cruel to banish your children from a perfect garden? Or drown your flock under an ocean of water? Cruelty can be instructive. And what is Columbia, if not the schoolhouse of the Lord?
You see what I mean? It's not in Daisy's actions where I find fault in the writing, but in the reactions of the supposedly sympathetic protagonists.
When it comes down to it, the only difference between Comstock and Fitzroy is how you spell the name.
Comparing uprisers to their oppressors is never a good idea. Why? Because the uprisers never did anything to their oppressors in the first place. If a group of Jewish people set out to kill Nazis, would that make them just as bad as Hitler? I don't think so. What makes this particularly troubling is the history of one of the two characters making such observations about Daisy. Before becoming a private detective, Booker DeWitt played a major role in the slaughter of the Lakota people during the Wounded Knee massacre, before going on to work for the infamous Pinkerton National Detective Agency.
And I was with the Pinkertons. They call us in when the workers got restless.
To do what?
Demonstrate the folly of men striking, throwing down tools.
You hurt people.
I'll tell you this. Sometimes there's precious need for folks like Fitzroy.
Why?
Because of folks like me.
To her credit, Elizabeth, Comstock's own daughter, shows far more sympathy towards the Vox in their plight, due largely in part to her own naivete as a result of her sheltered upbringing.
Booker, if the Vox get their weapons, there's going to be a revolution just like Les Miserables. These people are gonna have better lives.
Yeah.
However, as soon as action is taken and real blood is spilled, she quickly changes her tune, echoing DeWitt's earlier comparison.
They're just right for each other, aren't they?
Who?
Fitzroy and Comstock.
The climax of Daisy's arc comes in the form of her long-awaited rebellion, storming Finkton and taking the man in charge and his son at gunpoint while the Vox lay waste to what was once their veritable prison. I believe the developers of the game wanted players to be horrified by what comes next, but even for my white ass, the image of a black woman pulling the trigger on the man who all but enslaved her and wearing his blood as war paint only stirs up feelings of second-hand empowerment. Unfortunately, it's after this crowning moment that the writers make a very poor choice. Her lust for blood apparently unsated, she turns the gun on Fink's young son, claiming that killing him too will be the only way to stop the cycle. In order to prevent an innocent child's death, Elizabeth is forced to kill Daisy. This is what I consider to be a prime example of villainizing a black character who wanted nothing more than to better the lot of her people. The game is trying so hard to make her seem like a menacing force of evil when her cause was always just from the very beginning. It's a discredit to Daisy's character to go in such a direction, and I believe the writers know it, as evidenced in the DLC Burial at Sea. Through the handy-dandy power of time travel, Elizabeth goes back and discovers the truth. Daisy was never going to kill the boy, but was put up to it by the Lutece twins.
I will see Fink and Comstock burn, but I will not hold the son to account for the deeds of his father.
You've misunderstood us.
We neither asked you to harm the child,
Nor did we promise that yours would be the hand that would set Comstock's world afire.
A famous man once said,
And a famous man shall say,
I may reach the mountaintop,
but I fear I shall never visit the valley below.
But you mean I won't live to see the... No.
It's up to you what matters more.
Your part in the play?
Or the play itself.
Someone is coming.
She'll arrive a girl.
She must leave. A woman.
And what makes the difference between a girl and a woman?
Blood.
Yes, you heard that right. Daisy died a villain so that Elizabeth could realize her blue-eyed, lily-white destiny. And I say this with no ill will towards Elizabeth either. Who could hate this cutie? My objection lies only with the disservice done to Daisy's character. By trying to undo their earlier mistakes, they made it even worse. At least, that's my take on it. I admit, my perception of her may be biased due to my fondness for oppressed characters who take matters into their own hands, but I believe such characters serve a purpose. They give those with little power hope, even if their methods are extreme. In this increasingly fucked up world, are we not entitled to heroes and anti-heroes who refuse to bend over? Until next time, keep on gaming, and I leave you with a bit of musical self-indulgence in honor of my beloved Miss Fitzroy. It ain't me, it ain't me, I ain't no millionaire son. It ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no fortune in a while.